Could you elaborate a little bit looking for your own voice
Mhm.
in the piece of music?
This again started from my first teacher when she would dance for me a waltz, she would dance for me a mazurka, and things like that. So my imagination was already, you know, very motivated. And it's still in me a curiosity to look more into that. What is she dancing? Let me look at. And I used to go to books, listen to records, dances, things like that. So that my curiosity got, going on that one. Later on, for example, I've heard also many stories. The great pianist Jesus Maria San Roma, who was a Boston icon for many years. He studied with teacher Antonieta Sumowska, who was Polish, and she was at the New England Conservatory for many years. She studied with Paderewski, and he used to tell me how she would dance a mazurka for him to understand it. See, so I've gathered all this information in my training. So when and even Adele Marcus would just very much dance a minuet or something like that, so you get familiar with it. So that's why, and the music of Bach, for example, I'm going to talk about the French suite, the C minor, which are a series of dances. You see, the Allemand, the Courant, the Minuet, the Gigue. And Bach used this form in most of his music. In other words, when you go to the Preludes and Fugue, the Fourier Preludes and Fugue, they mostly are cast in some kind of a dance or some kind of a musical ricercare or a concerto a style, a French overture. So I think that in order to really understand and not play Bach dryly, like many people played, you have to understand again what I was saying, the style, the period, what was prevalent in that, um, and that would give you a better understanding. So I sometimes would start with a suite française, the French suite, and then go back and start teaching preludes and fugue because they already have, after the inventions, kind of an idea already how the preludes and fugues, some of them are cast, in jig style, in French overture style, and Allemand, so many the F minor in the first book, for example. So I think that that's a very, very good way of introducing Bach. Bach was a human being. Bach had many feelings, and the greatest emotions that he imparted in his music are there. It's just that it's foreign to us sometimes because we don't have that connection, that relation. That's why it's so important to sort of get the student back into this and understand it. So they don't play dryly, for example. Also, of course, the thing of the polyphonic element is so important, Bach. Thought in terms of voices. How many times I now I hear, Bach played just like homophonic, like melody and accompaniment. No, it's totally polyphonic, and the lines have to weave, and you also has to develop physically, technically, a voice for each. Rosalind Turek used to say each finger should be like a brain, has their own brain. Yeah. So from a technical point of view, you have to be able to have maybe two hands, one hand doing something here, the other one something here, which has a different texture, a different color. And this is very, very, very important. Now, you notice that this is in Bach, but this can apply to all the music, Beethoven up to Rachmaninoff. If you don't play Bach correctly, you really won't play Rachmaninoff correctly. See? Because it's the voices, the counterpoint is all there. It's different, it's a different style, it's a different era, it's a different ethnic background, but the principle remains the same.
Bach was a deeply religious person,
Yes,
and it reflects, of course, in all his music. How do you
right.
engage that with your students?
Very interesting question. I again, when now with the internet, the students have so much information in their disposal, right? So I remember when I was playing I was learning the chromatic fantasy in fugue at Julia with Miss Marcus. She used to say, go to the library and look at these Rococo architectures, and the Baroque architectures in the cathedrals in Europe to understand all this ornamentation that is in Bach. Because this was the way the church at that time brought up the spiritual part of music and the spiritual spirit that Bach was, praised and familiar with. So his part of his music, the spirituality, is in ornamentation, in the phrasing, yeah, in the meaning behind, let's say, the passion of Christ, the joys of Christmas. All of this is in Bach music. So it is important, again, to be familiarize yourself with this historic and cultural elements that it's already so far removed from us now. I mean, we can always go to Europe and look at a cathedral, but if you want to have this type of physical proximity with this, you can look it up in the internet and you see all these marvelous architectures, and you get a spirit of how people praise God at that time. How what was so much a part of the history and the tradition of praising God. And of course, Bach was a Lutheran, a great spiritual man, and his music behind everything is there. The spirit, that spirit is behind it.